Pressure Podcast. It's great to be back on another week, another episode, Bill.
Episode number two. Week after week after week.
Boom. Season 3, episode 2. It's great to be back.
It's good to be back.
That break almost killed me.
Yeah?
But we learned a lot.
We did.
Set up this new studio.
Yeah.
Took over my kids' playroom.
Our playroom now.
It's our playroom now, son. I got two sons. Sure, there's maybe a tractor in the background or maybe a random helium balloon here and there, but
The Millennial Falcon.
the Millennial Falcon. We really need to build out this Millennial Falcon thing. That's just comic gold. The Millennial Falcon. But it's great to be back, Bill. Bill, I put this shirt on. This is one of my favorite fishing shirts, but I realized I kind of look like a communist.
That's a sticky area. I'm not going to touch it right there.
Well, it's this green drab.
Yeah. Well, communism's making a comeback, though. I mean,
I wonder if maybe there's I did it unintentionally. I like this shirt maybe because
I like food lines. I like bread lines.
I've noticed the whole we occasionally on the podcast we will go into some conspiracy things. There's not a hammer and sickle behind us, or is there?
What?
For you people not watching on the YouTube channel, there may or may not be.
Check out on YouTube.
No, there's not.
Yeah, YouTube would probably kick us off. Well, maybe not. Maybe
probably
not.
Get promoted right to the top.
Oh.
No, but I don't know. Maybe it's something. I don't know. I need to check my heart. You
gotta check your heart.
I gotta make sure that I'm not secretly. I don't think I am. Libertarianism and communism do not go hand in hand.
No.
But this is not a political BS show.
No.
We do not talk politics because you get enough of that on other channels.
That's right.
So
impeach him. No, I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. That's what's going to get us up to the top.
Speaking of building a wall, I don't know if you guys remember the Asian carp episode, but that was an episode that really got a lot of good feedback. Building a wall to keep the Asian carp out of the Great Lakes.
Yeah.
It's great. Build a wall. But that's about as political as we get.
Yeah.
Anyways, hey, you know what? And one of the we have two new we have one new sponsor and one re-sign. And last episode, I apologize if it sounded like we were on QVC, but it was our first episode back.
That it was.
We had to introduce our new sponsor. And we did not do in other news.
What?
Dun, 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 dun.
That's right. You're right.
Let's see if it's playing right now.
Yep.
Can you hear it?
I hear it.
In other news, we didn't do it on episode 1.
I know. We forgot. We were busy. We had a lot going on.
We had a lot going on. A lot of
first
stuff
time
to get
back
to. Yeah, getting in the swing of things. Yep. And accountant Phil's like, Jeff, Bill, you guys are funny. You guys remind me of Click and Clack, the Tapper Brothers. You ever listen to NPR?
No.
We don't get political, but I was just curious if you listen to NPR.
No.
The guys that do the show.
Are they on Fox News?
I only watch Fox News. It's fair and balanced. But anyway, so Accountant Phil's like, you know what? You guys should do a regular segment called In Other News.
All right.
So in other news, this is actually reported by CountryRebel.com, a very reputable source.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm going for news, I'm going to Country Rebel.
What do they got to say about Hillary?
It's a clothing company, and I'm not advertising for them, but if I need great, accurate news, it's always good to go to a clothing company to get that. But whether this is true or not, I don't know. But Bear steals 36 beers from campers, gets drunk, and passes out until the Rangers come.
Huh.
That sounded like a bachelor party I was at one time.
Who was the bear?
I don't know. I don't remember. I don't have much recollection. I just know that the Rangers showed up and took me out of the park.
Huh.
Escorted me out. Anyways, me and this beer have a lot in common. So Beer steals 36 beers, or Bear beer.
Bear beer.
It's hard to say both of those.
Bear beer.
Bear steals 36 beers from campers. According to the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife, a black bear was found passed out on the lawn of Swift Creek Campground due to drinking a 36-pack of beer.
Huh.
Okay. They found him because he left a trail of empty beer cans leading back to the campsite.
Leading to his location. Leading to his whereabouts.
Total of 36 cans were found. Now, this is the funny part. The funniest part of the situation is that the bear was only interested in a specific type of beer called Rainier beer.
Rainier beer.
Rainier. When investigating the scene, it was found that the bear opened one Busch beer and apparently didn't like it because he left the rest of them untouched. However, he drank all of the Rainier beer. Here's a quote. He drank the Rainier and wouldn't drink the Busch beer, said Lisa Bronson, the bookkeeper there at the campground. Now, again, who would know better than the bookkeeper at the campground?
That's true.
I wonder if she had accounted for all of these beers. Maybe that's what her bookkeeping was.
Maybe
that's why she was the expert that they interviewed. Well, when the park officials tried to chase it away from the campground, the bear was stumbling so bad it couldn't walk straight and climbed into a tree to take a nap.
I would be scared of a drunk bear. I think he would be a mean drunk.
Maybe. There are other types of drunks too.
This is true.
But he could have been a mean bear. But evidently he's a sleepy drunk.
Yeah.
So several hours later, it woke up, and park rangers were able to safely remove the bear. The bear had such a good time, it showed back up the very next day for round 2 with another camper's cooler of beers. Though this time, the wildlife officials were prepared and set a trap.
That bear
and
has
safely
a problem.
safely captured the bear again, lured him with donuts, honey, and of course, 2 open cans of Rainier beer.
Lured him into an intervention.
Yeah, the bear was located for the second time, and the story went viral on social media, and you can check that out on our social media sites as well, or on our Facebook, remote-no-pressure.com. Gotcha. or our Instagram. Or I tell you what, you leave a review for us, and I'll email you the article personally.
Hey, personally email you. Make sure you leave your email in that review, and it's a good one. Otherwise, everybody...
Yeah, otherwise it's just not good. But yeah, so we're very excited this week. We got Holden Asmus on the horn with us this week, and Holden was actually one of the winners of our short story contest, and we have his short story contest actually posted, Stream of Dreams, up on our podcast, on our blog at remote-no-pressure.com blog. So be sure to go check that out. Also follow him on Instagram. We have all of his links there down below.
Very cool.
So thank you so much, Holden, for hanging out with us and submitting to their what is it called?
Our writing contest?
Yep. And welcome to the podcast. Let's light the fire. Well, today on the Remote No Pressure podcast, I'm very excited to have Holden Asmus with us. Thank you very much for hanging out with us, Holden.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I know that time is very important to you. You have a newborn at home, and how's the sleeping going? You guys doing okay?
So yeah, she just got to that first real growth spurt, you could say. She turned she turned a month old on the 24th here of September. I don't know when this episode's airing, so she'll obviously be older by then. But so she usually wakes up every 2.5 to 3 hours wanting to feed. So, we were pretty blessed to have, we have a smart bassinet actually. So like it moves a little bit and has some white noise. And if she gets fussy, it kind of like moves a little faster. It almost like shakes them to sleep. It looks like, but it's okay. But no, it's helped a lot. You know, I've heard from other friends that have babies, they're like, "Oh, you're getting up every hour." It's like, I don't know what you're talking about. She's pretty chill. So,
well, whenever we brought our firstborn home, his name's Reagan. He's 10 years old now. We brought our firstborn home, and we did not have a bassinet. We just had a place for him to sleep. So we didn't know what to do with him whenever we weren't holding him. So we literally held our son for 2 weeks until we could figure out, like, what do you do with this kid whenever you're not like, so we literally held him for like 2 weeks and we figured it out, but it was like, oh crap, because we forgot to buy something. We forgot to buy something to put the kid in when you're not holding him, Yeah. So it was kind of a funny thing, but you just, it's similar to fly fishing, I guess. When you first bring home a kid, you don't know what you're doing. You're trying not to break anything,
Yeah. Yeah. You're winging it.
Yeah, you're winging it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, one of the reasons I wanted to reach out to you, Holden, is because you are actually one of our winners of our short story contest at the end of last year, or at the end of last season, and I really appreciate you sending it in. And it was that the story that you wrote. I'm not going to give away the ending, but people can go on our website at remotenопроpressure.com to our blog and read the Stream of Dreams. How did you get inspired to write this? I mean, is this something that you written a long time ago, or did you write it for the story? I mean, can you tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah, so I did put it into writing for the writing contest, but the Stream of Dreams I would classify as a nonfiction, to be honest. So I work in agriculture, which we're pretty hectic hours. We're not really a 9 to 5 career. I like to say instead of a 9 to 5, it's a 5 to 9. So you're up at the sun up and you're working till the job gets done. And our busiest times of year, at least in row crop production, are springtime and fall time. So if you put your fly fishing hats on, those are the prime fishing times. So, and it's at least the way that the agricultural industry has been as of lately. It's very hectic. I mean, JFK said it best. Agriculture is the only industry that buys at retail, sells at wholesale, and pays for shipping both ways. So, yeah. So I mean, we're having some very tough economic times. So there's a lot of stress and anxiety that's kind of tied in with agriculture as well. And one thing that kind of inspired the Stream of Dreams is the therapeutic feeling of being out in a river. Feeling the water moving. They say that hearing a stream and feeling that current actually does have a calming effect on the human mind. So a lot of times when it's hectic, I tend to think of, maybe if the weather's right, I can get out and I can fish. Or like if I'm stressing out, which I do quite a bit, I think of the stream. I think of going out on the lake and literally casting my anxieties away. Wow. So
now, what part of Iowa? You're in Iowa. What part of Iowa are you in?
So I am in the center of Iowa. Like I'm right in the middle. I live in a town called Hampton. So we don't have very many bodies of water in our area. I'm just outside of the cusp of the driftless region. So Decorah is maybe, that's the mecca for Iowa with Trout Run. That is maybe 2.5 hours east of me. But yeah, I'm in some pretty hardcore warm water territory, bass, pike, muskies. We do have some guys that fish for carp, but there's no fly fishermen yet. So I'm hoping, I actually have never fished for carp on the fly. So that's something I'm hoping to try out and break the seal in our area for that.
That's awesome. How did you get into fly fishing? I mean, you're in the middle of, I tell people I live in the middle of a cornfield because I live in Michigan. And I do live pretty much in the middle of a cornfield, but you live in the middle of a corn state. I mean, the whole state is corn. So you live like in the middle of oh, yeah. Oh, here's the deal. My wife and I lived in St. Louis for a while. And so we would drive sometimes from Grand Rapids to St. Louis because Jamie, my wife's family has she lives in Grand Rapids. So we drive back and forth. And that southern drive from Chicago to St. Louis is all through cornfields in Illinois, and I'm assuming that's probably pretty similar to where you are in Iowa. How would one get into fly fishing in the middle of a cornfield?
Yeah, so yeah, you're right. When it comes to Iowa, I usually describe it on a drive from east to west. You'll see corn, 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 tree, corn, corn, barn, corn, Luss Hills. So yeah, so I mean it is a lot of corn. So I actually got into fly fishing when I was about 14, 15 years old. I actually got to go on a fishing trip with my father and my grandfather out to Montana. There's a lodge that they've been going to or that they went to for decades, where the five rivers meet. I'm going to make sure I get them right here. The Madison, the Jefferson, the Big Hole, the Beaverhead, and the Ruby.
Wow.
So we got to do a float trip on the Beaverhead, and it's honestly something I'm never going to forget. So on a float trip, of course, it's all nymph fishing with a strike indicator. So I remember that day I caught 21 trout. Like it was, and it's all catch and release. So I mean, as soon as I'd throw this strike indicator in, I must have had the hot bait, and it was not a squirmy worm. So yeah, I got no pun intended. I was hooked. So of course that trip obviously was an unforgettable one. When I got through high school, obviously going to college. In Iowa, I kind of lost sight of fly fishing. Kind of had a little absence from fly fishing, trying to get my schooling done, and so I got back after graduating college, and I actually got in a pretty bad car accident in 2015. So that car accident actually had me bedridden for quite a while. So I needed something to do to fill the time. So I thought about when I was a kid, my mom had a vise and used to tie jigs for walleye fishing. And so I talked to my mom and it's like, hey, you haven't used this vise in forever. Can I maybe borrow it? I'd like to get into tying flies. So I started tying flies in 2015. I got kind of back into fly fishing through tying. So the same relaxing and calming effect that I would experience on the river, I actually experienced behind the vise as well. So that extreme focus you need, to tie a streamer, that experience is really calming to me. So got back into it then and figured out that you can catch more than trout on a fly rod. So went out and started chasing some of the fish that I would catch on traditional gear, like pike and bass.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Now, can you tell us a little bit about the car accident? Like, what happened?
So it was really interesting timing too. Of course, it was in April. So April is right around the time that planting season starts. Right. So I was up pretty early that day. I think I got up at about 4:00, and I went to work and afterwards had a young professionals meeting in Forest City, which at the time was about half an hour away. And that got done around 11:00. So I had been burning the candle on both ends, and I actually fell asleep behind the wheel.
Oh my God.
And of course, every farm boy has to have their jacked up pickup. So I fell asleep. I had cruise control on, so that was not good. Yep. When I came to, I was about to hit a mailbox, so I swerved for that, and I ended up hitting the bottom of a ditch at about 60 miles an hour. So the first point of impact would be the door jamb on the driver's side. Uh-huh. So kind of that top corner. That came down and hit me in the side of the head, which kind of threw me down into the bench of my truck when it rolled. Mm-hmm. So when I regained consciousness, I didn't have my phone because it got thrown out of the truck. And I broke my right collarbone, and I could kind of feel that. And I was like, well, I don't have my phone. It's the middle of the night, and I'm like 5 miles from home. It's like, I'm just going to go and I'm going to start knocking on doors on the way home, because I know all the growers in that area.
Right, sure.
It's like, I'm going to just start knocking on doors, and somebody's going to answer, hopefully, and maybe get me to a hospital. I might need some help. So started walking, and the timing of that, and there was a thunderstorm that night, and actually the power was out that I later found out. So I would be ringing on a doorbell, and I didn't really remember how much time I spent at a door, but nobody would hear me because the doorbell was dead. So,
oh my gosh.
So luckily, my logic came back after the adrenaline and said, I just fled the scene of an accident, so I'm going to stake it out at the truck.
Yeah.
Started walking back to my truck and found somebody with their flashlight looking out the window. So I said, worst case scenario, it's an old man that he's probably upset that I woke him up. He'll at least call for an ambulance. And so when I got to the door, he had actually just called the police because he thought I hit a deer. So when I rolled, my truck didn't die, and all the lights still kind of worked because it was just the cab that got crushed.
Okay.
So he looked out his window and saw the truck idling with the lights on, and he's like, "Oh, the kid hit a deer." Pulled into the field to see if the deer was or if the deer needed any help, or needed anything taken care of. And when he saw me, he called back and said, "Yeah, I need an ambulance." So they came and got me, which that's another story in and of itself, because I was a volunteer firefighter for the area. So it was my fellow firefighters that came and picked me up. So of course I was getting grief the whole way to the hospital, but all in good fun.
Right.
So
wow.
yeah. So and ultimately what ended up happening is obviously the broken collarbone. I had split my sternum, and then I broke they call them the transverse process, but for layman's terms, the wings on your vertebrae. I broke the bottom one of my neck and the top 4 of my back. So I didn't feel any of that, obviously, because of all the adrenaline. So there was a while I was in a neck brace and a collar until my collarbone healed. So, but there was quite a while I had this neck brace on.
Wow.
So yeah, once I gained mobility in my arm, I obviously had some time to kill, and like I said earlier, that's how I got into tying flies.
Wow. When I was 11 years old, and I've told this story before on the podcast, I was in a really, really bad accident, really, really bad car accident. And at 11 years old, you play sports and, you're playing baseball and all that other stuff. Well, I couldn't do that. I was either all through middle school, I was either like in a wheelchair, I was on a walker, or crutches or something the entire middle school. And I learned how to play guitar that way. That's where because I had all this time and I wasn't going out with my friends, and playing baseball, stuck inside. So I started playing guitar. So sometimes things like that happen to us, and we discover new passions, So that's cool that you're able to find the tying thing.
Yeah, and there's a shameless plug I'm going to put. One of my favorite songs actually is one of yours. I believe it's called Heaven.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah. So that's definitely in my Vice jams. So
oh, dude, man, I'm really humbled by that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, shameless plug. If you have Spotify, check out Jeff Troutman's music.
Oh, man, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I tell you what, we got to take a short break for our sponsors. Just give me one moment and we'll be right back. Man, it's great to be back. Episode 2, Bill. It's going great.
It is going great.
It's going good.
It's going great.
It's fall. It's cold.
Yeah.
Normally, when you're cold, you want more hair.
Go on.
But in our particular case, we want to give a special thanks to our sponsor, Manscaped.
We said it at the same time. Jinx.
Manscaped. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, Landscaped as actually
you said landscape.
Did I say landscape?
You did.
Because it's called the Lawnmower 2.0.
I know. They're clever with their marketing.
Very,
I like that.
very, very clever with their marketing. So we're very thankful for Manscaped. Manscaped support for this podcast comes from Manscaped, who is #1 in men's below the belt grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Bill, you're the one that got this Lawnmower 2.0.
Well, you did give me what they gave us, and I was a little hesitant at first, but as I said on the last episode, I'm getting married, so I'm like, well, time to tame the Anyways, I tried it out, and
Time to tame the garden.
and let me just say that it works.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That's excellent. It does have the quiet stroke technology.
Yep.
Hyper hygienic, not just ordinary laid back hygienic, but actually hyper. 6,000 RPM motor with a rechargeable USB, 60-minute usage for each full charge on that battery. If it takes you 60 minutes to trim your family jewels, you have issues. You need to go see.
I almost want to say write in and tell us, but no.
Don't. We don't want to know.
Keep that to yourself.
Keep that to yourself.
And get the Manscaped Lawnmower 2.0.
Yes, absolutely. But go check out manscaped.com. Type in remote, no pressure at checkout. You're going to receive a 20% discount and free shipping.
That ain't bad.
Buy 4, get 1 free then.
You can't go wrong there.
You can't afford not to buy it. Christmas is coming up. Check out the lawnmower. The first 5 purchases, send us an email and we will send you one of our...
Not a buff.
Not a buff. Not allowed to call it a buff, Sasquatch buff. Guaranteed to ward off any kind of Sasquatch, or we will give you $100 and Bill will personally pay for your
return product. You're like, I'm gonna reimburse you for that.
If you personally and you have to have proof, video proof, or a picture.
Come shake your hand too, because who else has been attacked by a Sasquatch?
I don't know, but I guarantee you this thing will keep you from getting attacked by a Sasquatch.
You guarantee it.
Maybe,
and I bet I stand behind you.
Maybe a drunk bear.
Yeah, I could see that.
You may or may not get attacked by a drunk bear. I can't guarantee that.
That'd be pretty cool, though.
But also, no,
that wouldn't be pretty cool. The Sasquatch would be pretty cool. The drunk bear, that'd be scary.
The drunk bear would be scary. Our other sponsor that we appreciate, Ross White over at Deli Fresh Design. Deli Fresh Design makes high quality fly fishing products out of recycled materials such as waders, sails, not on sale, but I'm talking like sails from sailboat. I got the streamer wallet. That's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Couple sling packs, couple beer koozies. Life is good in my house for DFD, baby.
Yeah.
DeliFreshDesign.com. You want to type in RNP20 at checkout to receive 20% off.
Man, what is up with that 20%?
I don't know.
You can't afford not to, folks.
You can't afford not to. You can trim your nether regions and have an awesome
cold beer.
Have a cold beer and a beer koozie and a sling pack
around your neck while you're trimming your nether regions.
That would be odd.
That would be odd.
Trimming your nether regions with a cold beer hanging down from Deli Fresh Design. I don't care what you do with these products. They're amazing. But I don't need to know how you're doing the nether regions.
I'm trying to think, how could we snap a picture to promote this? No, we're not gonna.
No.
We're not gonna.
We're not.
Let's just say it. Just go ahead and go to our sponsors, folks.
Go to our sponsors, DeliFreshDesign.com, receive at RMP20 at checkout, receive 20% off, and also Manscaped.com, receive 20% off and free shipping when you type in remote, no pressure at checkout. Let's get back to the podcast. So what kind of fly fishing do you do mostly? Are you do mainly, you said, warm water type species, or?
Yeah, so really I've kind of gotten curious enough to try and catch whatever I can on a fly rod. So I priority though is the warm water species. So a lot of bass fishing. My wife is from northern Wisconsin, kind of in the Hayward area. So I do fish for a lot of muskie, even though that's just a lot of casting, and I'll catch an occasional pike. I must not have the action that the muskie want, but I try to trout fish when I can. We do have some streams in Iowa that I enjoy going to, but really it's if it's in the water and it takes a bait, I'm going to try and catch it on a fish. So I actually, even to prove a point to a friend of mine, kind of putting my farmer hat on, there's a lot of criticism that farmers use too much nitrogen and it's getting in the water. To prove a point to one of my friends on our conservation efforts, I went to a bulkhead, which for those that aren't familiar with that's the main source or kind of the start of a drainage ditch, so that where all the field water comes off. And I actually caught a red horse, which is a little kind of a sucker whitefish type of thing. I went and caught one of those on a fly rod and sent a picture to a friend of mine and said, hey, fish can live in our water, and took a picture of the cornfield, took a picture of that, and then pulled the fish out and said, "Hey, here you go." So,
Right.
I mean, literally anything is fun on a fly rod.
Now, the nitrogen, is that coming from your herbicides or insecticides? Is that kind of what they're saying?
So where it's mainly coming from, obviously our fertilizers. So the insect, like the herbicides, the seed treatments, the insecticides and fungicides, they don't have the nitrogen. But at the end of the year, there are people that will put nitrogen into the soil to get ready for the next spring. And there's some people saying that there's too much nitrogen being used, which in certain cases or in previous years before the technology that ag has, yes, there were some spots that may have been over applied. But we use actually a variable rate. So we go out and take a little core of the soil and we figure out, we send that into a lab and they tell us how much of the big fertilizers or the big nutrients it needs, your nitrogen, your phosphorus, potassium are kind of the big three. It tells us what our fields have, and then we do some math to figure out what it needs. So there could be a spot in the field where I'm putting, X amount of pounds, and then it'll change in 30 or 40 feet because that part of the field doesn't need as much. So there's a lot of technology in it, and it's pretty cool. So
yeah, because I know we have, obviously, in the fly fishing community, clean water is very important to us, and
yes.
So that's interesting to hear your perspective. Now we had there's a lot of arguments too about public access. We need to have public access to waters. I'm personally a fan of public access, but I'm also very libertarian as well in my beliefs and whatnot. And so I'm trying to figure out and wrap my mind around that, like public access, but yet I don't want the government involved in anything else but conservation.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things where I'm always trying to find that. But with the clean water, I mean, being a farmer and also a fly angler, do you tend to go above and beyond making sure that the water's clean, or are you pretty confident in the technologies and the processes that you have in place that are we over? Do we freak out about it and we should probably calm down a little bit? Being you're the expert and you're the actual farmer.
Well, so I wouldn't say that people are overreacting. I mean, you can look at the hypoxic zone down in the Mississippi Delta or the Gulf of Mexico. You see that, and there is a lot of nitrogen getting into the water. That is something we can all agree on. The thing, putting on my farmer hat, is we are doing a lot of technology that people don't think. A lot of people, for how sad it sounds, a lot of people think that farmers are like, you think back to old Farmer Jed with his overalls and beard, and they think that we're pretty old school. But really, agriculture has changed a lot. I mean, I actually have a friend in college that has designed technology to where tractors drive themselves. Yeah. I mean, so there's a lot of technology in ag, and we have practices in place like cover crops where we're planting ryegrass or radishes, turnips in about August, so that when we go through and combine our fields, there's a living plant in that ground, and we don't turn it over. So we don't plow it under. We don't do anything to till that ground. We just let the cover crop do its thing. So that holds a lot of nitrogen. That helps with carbon sequestration, or I guess in fancy terms too, getting that carbon down into the soil. So instead of up in the air. So we are working on helping our footprint, and I'm actually quite a big hunter too. So with these cover crops, in Iowa, you can't bait your animals. So you can't go out, and I don't know if Michigan has rules like that as well with bait piles, but in Iowa, you can't go out and dump a pile of corn and go sit in a tree stand and wait for the buck to come by.
Right.
But,
yeah.
But you can sit on a field edge where somebody's planted turnips or radishes in November, where those plants are still thriving, and the deer will eat those. So, it does mix the passions of agriculture, and it mixes the. Sorry, my other phone's ringing here.
No problem.
I gotta hit that button here. Sorry for the minor break.
No problem.
There we go. Okay, so and take. Okay, so to gain my track back there. Sorry for that. I try to combine the conservation of our farm ground as well as hunting ground and fishing, because we're all focusing on preserving the same things. We need to have clean water to raise crops. We need to have a healthy soil system in order for our crops to grow. And we put these cover crops and these water filter strips in place to make sure that our water is clean. And personally, I think it would be really cool to be able to have cold water streams that are being fed by fields at some point, where that after that field has filtered the water, it's out in our drainage ditches and gets into the streams. It would be great to have a trout habitat in that area. So, that's kind of a goal that in the back of my mind, I'm like, it'd be sweet if we could get this done. And slowly and surely with these conservation efforts that agriculturalists are doing, as well as, your trout unlimiteds, your whitetail unlimited, pheasants forever, we're all working to conserve the same thing. We just, hopefully that message could be put together and, we all pursue that same goal together.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. And that's great. It's great perspective. It's great to hear what you guys are doing. It's great to hear someone who may be, in a controversial type. But the bottom line is, if we don't have clean water, like you said, we don't have crops. We don't eat, Yeah. So it's important for everyone to kind of take care of things and to do it the right way, So now, when you're tying, just change the subject a little bit about tying. You have a pretty big passion for tying, and I know you said you had the accident. Is that where the passion came from? Is during that time you were kind of bedridden, you became really passionate about fly tying?
That's where the new found passion is, I guess you could say. I did tie. When I was a kid, like I said, my mom used to tie jigs for walleye fishing, put some feathers on them, or maybe a little crystal flash, so when they're down with their bait, it gives a little shine. And actually, when I was a kid, I was a member of the 4-H club, and we have presentations that we can give. And I gave a presentation on tying flies, and I found it. I wish I could dig it up again. And I have some of the flies that I tied when I was in 5th grade.
Wow! And
to put it lightly, they're atrocious, but I love it. So I guess I had that passion as a kid, and when I got into the adult life, so to speak, that passion was brought back, and that passion was brought back. So I was able to bring that in, and it's really something that came back, and it's something I'm glad I picked up again.
Yeah.
So
that's amazing. Well, I appreciate you hanging out with me today, Holden. We're going to put up your story Stream of Dreams on our website at remotenopressure.com. Yeah, well, cool, man. Well, thank you so much, and I really appreciate you. Is there any? Do you have a website or anything or not?
So I'm working on it. Okay. So for those that are interested in kind of following my story, I'm kind of all over the place. So I actually was featured on a blog with the Post Fly crew.
Yeah.
Because I actually fly fished in my wedding suit the day of the wedding. So because fly fishing relieves a lot of stress and anxiety, and my wedding day I was really nervous. So
right.
Yeah, I went out and started fly fishing, and our photographer got pictures of it, and so yeah, that kind of came out. But yeah, so you can find that on Postfly. Otherwise, you can follow me on Instagram. My tag is at Flyowa Guy. So Flyowa_guy. Like FLYOWA because of Iowa.
Right.
Yeah, so I am working on having a website where I can kind of showcase more of my flies and actually tie in some of the hunting side too. I do some work with elite archery, so like elite bows. So
Sure.
I'm doing some different things. So I'm all over the board. But follow me on Instagram at Flyowa_guy. And when I have time in my crazy life to tie a fly or two, you'll see it pop up on my Instagram. Otherwise, through the month of October, you might see a lot of tractor cabs or maybe behind the wheel of the combine. So, but that's the life of a farmer for you.
That's awesome, man. Well, hey, thanks for hanging out with us. I really appreciate it, Holden.
Yeah, thanks again.
That was an excellent episode, Bill.
Yeah, it was.
You didn't grow up on a farm?
Well, I didn't have like livestock, but we had 20 acres, out in northern Michigan in the sticks.
Sure. Well, it's really interesting to hear his perspective on clean water.
Yeah.
We all strive for clean water, but it's cool to see the technology and how it's evolved. Mm-hmm. A lot of times we think farmers with the pesticides and yada, yada, that's a horrible thing. But in all honesty, it's actually pretty cool what they're doing.
Interesting.
Really striving for that. Bill, thank you so much for coming on for season 3. I just want to know, I appreciate you and what you do.
I appreciate your appreciation.
Appreciate the appreciation. Well, I appreciate your appreciative of my appreciation.
Oh, well, I appreciate your appreciation of my appreciation. Wait.
Good Lord. People have already turned the podcast off, Bill.
Again.
People are already, they're like, once we start talking.
Oh, time to turn off. Let's go to the next one.
Let's go to the next one. Let's go to another podcast. No, but anyways, hey, thank you guys very much for checking us out at Remote No Pressure. Thank you guys so much for checking us out on Remote No Pressure. Be sure to go to our website, sign up for our mailing list. Also, check us out on Instagram, Facebook,
YouTube.
Hey, you know what? I'm going to do this. It's kind of self-indulgent. Would you mind if I indulge for a minute?
Indulge me.
Aaron Reed from Texas says, Jeff, you need to talk about your music more on the podcast.
How indulgent.
I don't want to be that guy that's like, hey, man, check it out. But I don't know. It's just hard for me to do that. But I do have an album out, Songs About Fly Fishing.
Do you?
I do. It's called Songs About Fly Fishing. You can get it on all your streaming
I just signed up for Spotify. I'll have to check that out.
You can actually download it on there. But I got that song, and I released a new single earlier this year.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. Called How Long.
How long? And how long was it?
I don't know. It's a few minutes.
About 4 minutes.
About 4.5 minutes. No, but be sure to check that out too. I greatly appreciate that. Until next time, go fishing.